Hey, Louie, I got a great idea for Jay and Lou. Don't that picture sure look dusty? Hey, it's Jay, and my seventh favorite film of all time is The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. This is the story of how the infamous outlaw Jesse James was assassinated. So let's get into the plot. So the film centers around Robert Ford, or Bob for short, played by Casey Affleck, and his attempts to join Jesse James, played by Brad Pitt, join his gang. Several failed attempts, though, because, Robert Ford is very young, so they don't really want an inexperienced person in a gang like this. Even though he has a connection with someone in the gang, Charlie Ford, his brother, played by Sam Rockwell. So he wants to join them as they take this train hostage. And so when they get on the train and, go through this act, they realize that there's only half the money that was, tipped to them that's on the train. And so Jesse James' brother, Frank James, played by Sam Shepard, is like, all right, this is the last robbery that the James brothers will ever commit. Because, they were swindled out of this one, so might as well just stop now. So Jesse James returns back to Kansas City with other members of his gang, Dick Little, played by Paul Schneider, and his cousin, Wood Height, played by Jeremy Renner. And they return back to Kansas City. However, Jesse James sends Dick and Wood away and keeps Bob around. And this is great news for Bob until he realizes that Jesse James was really only keeping him around to move furniture from his old house to his new house. But even through all that, more admiration is built from Robert Ford to Jesse James. And then he gets sent back to his widowed sister's home and gets reunited with his brother, Dick Little, and Wood Height. So, in the middle of all of this, it is revealed to Robert Ford by Dick Little that he's in collusion with another member of the James gang, Jim Cummings, who is planning to turn Jesse James in and collect a substantial bounty on his head. And so that's not very good for Robert Ford, because if Jesse James finds out, there's only one person he's told. At the same time, Jesse James is going to go visit Ed Miller, another member of the gang, and it is revealed to Jesse James the plot to have him imprisoned and have the bounty collected. In response, Jesse James kills Ed Miller. And so he collects Dick Little to go try and find Jim Cummings, and they're not having much luck. So they find, and Jesse James just viciously beats Albert Ford, who is a cousin of Robert and Charlie. He's a little kid too, trying to get some information as to where this guy is, but to no avail. And you see it in Dick Little's face that he's horrified, because if Jesse James can fly off the handle this quick, if he's found out to be part of this scheme, it's going to be a lot worse for Mr. Little there. So Dick Little returns back to the house, and he and Wood Height get into this massive, massive argument, and Wood Height threatens to shoot Dick Little. And, throughout this whole movie, Robert Ford is, undermined, and everyone is just taunting him that he, isn't anything special, and don't really take his threats seriously. Robert Ford threatened Wood Height earlier in the film because they were looking through his stuff, and he was like, next time you cross me, Wood Height, I'm going to put a bullet in you. And, everyone just laughed it off, because this is like a little 19-year-old, and no one really takes anything he says seriously. So during this argument where it looks like Wood Height is going to kill Dick Little, Robert Ford shoots him in the back of the head and kills Wood Height right then and there. This is bad because that is Jesse James's cousin, and you saw what he did to a little boy. So clearly he has no morals here in terms of, how rough he gets with people. So they dump his body in the river to kind of conceal, this murder from Jesse James. So Jesse and Charlie go to St. Joseph. They travel there, and Jesse James learns of Woodhite's disappearance and asks Charlie if he knows anything about it. Of course, Charlie denies it, which Jesse James doesn't buy for a second. You could see it on his face that he does not believe it for a second that Charlie wasn't involved. Meanwhile, Bob Ford goes to Police Commissioner of Kansas City and tells him he knows where Jesse James is. And at the same time, he's also trying to prove his allegiance to the James gang. So he's kind of playing a double agent here. He's helping the law try to find Jesse James, but he's also trying to keep himself in the James gang. And to prove his allegiance to the James gang, he has Dick Little arrested for multiple robberies done with the James gang. So Bob makes a deal with the governor of Missouri, and he has 10 days to capture Jesse James, or kill Jesse James, not capture. And if he does, he'll get a substantial bounty as well as be completely pardoned for murder. So Charlie persuades Jesse James to let Robert Ford join the gang, and they return back to St. Joseph to stay with James's family, Zerelda James as his wife, and their 2 children. He wants to revive the gang by doing some robberies of the Plate City Bank with the Fords, and then the newspaper comes, and this is when things go downhill extremely quickly. And Jesse James reads of the capture and confession of Dick Little. And basically the confession paints Robert Ford and Charlie Ford at the murder of Woodhite. Jesse James understands what's going on here and removes his gun belts for probably the first time ever in his life and goes to clean a dusty picture on the wall in which Robert Ford pulls out his own gun, which Jesse James gifted to him, and shoots him in the back of the head. And hence, assassinating Jesse James. And he and Charlie Ford flee. Because since Jesse James knew the entire time that the Fords were involved with Woodhite's murder, their lives were on the line. And so they flee and they write a telegram to the governor's office saying that Jesse James has been killed and they want their $10,000 reward, but they don't get anything more than $500 each, which isn't much compared to what they were offered. So it seems as though the Fords are heroes around the city after the assassination, and they go around Manhattan and perform recreations of the assassination of Jesse James, with Robert Ford playing himself and Charlie Ford playing Jesse James. But each performance, people become more and more angry that Robert Ford shot an unarmed man in the back, which is very cowardice, hence the title, by the coward Robert Ford. And even his brother Charlie is starting to get more and more guilt-stricken. Each performance, that the look of hate in his eyes towards his brother grows stronger and stronger. And then he starts writing letters to Z, which is James's wife, for forgiveness, and just doesn't send them because he doesn't have the heart to. And after suffering some terminal tuberculosis, he commits suicide. And so now we're back in 1880s, and Robert Ford's just working around the town. So, in 1892, while Robert Ford is in his saloon, he is murdered by Edward O'Keefe. There were charges pressed against O'Keefe, but he was actually pardoned for it because it really doesn't matter that he killed such a cowardice man. And that is The Assassination of Jesse James by the Robert Ford. I love this film. It's great. And I know this is the 3rd film that stars Jeremy Renner, but I'm sorry, I can't help it. He's in good movies. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't really appreciate this film nowadays because it's very long. It's almost clocking in at 3 hours, and that's a great thing for a film like this because it builds so many great characters. And, the scenery around them is beautiful and everything. It really captures the Western feel that the film is trying to get across. But what makes this film is the actors. They all do great in their own right, but what they really do extremely well is portray how they're feeling in the moment and make you feel the same thing. when Jesse James is like getting angrier and angrier because he knows that the Fords were involved in the murder of his cousin, you see it on his face that he's ready to snap at any second, and you're like, when's it gonna happen? When is he gonna snap? The Fords always look like they're about to crap their pants every scene they're in with Jesse James after the Wood Heights murder, and you feel that too. You're like, oh god, oh no, when is he gonna find out? Like, I feel like he knows. I think he knows, and everyone just does so solid. There's a scene where before the assassination of Jesse James, and he talks about how they're gonna rob the bank. He metaphorically puts the knife to Robert's neck and talks about how he's gonna slit the bank teller's throat and everything like that. Of course, what he's really saying is, this is what I'm gonna do to you. And it's just so brilliantly done. Brad Pitt captures the just insane personality of Jesse James so well. And Casey Affleck just has that weaselly little, like, you just want to punch him in the face type personality to him. And it's so well acted, so well paced. There's nothing really bad I could say in terms of pacing issues. There weren't any scenes where I was like, yeah, no, we don't need that. I thought every scene was really necessary. The bank robbing scene was beautifully shot too. Just having them go through the different carts, demanding that people, give their wallets and everything like that. Just really, really well done scene in that robbery. I wanted to keep it abridged, like the plot summary, because, like I said, it's a long movie, and every minute is enjoyable. Every minute that we get to see the different layers of characters is great. There's a really subtle scene in the very opening when they're all in the woods where, they're all talking and laughing, joking around, and the minute Robert Ford sits on a log, everyone gets up and leaves, completely ignoring him. Like I said, he's very underappreciated, underviewed in this movie, where everyone just thinks this is a kid, he's not going to do much for us, so we're not going to talk to you, we're going to ignore you. And it's great to just see, you could see Robert Ford's brain just thinking, how can I get myself into this gang? It reminds me a lot of J. Pierpont Finch from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, because they have the same tactics. They try to schmooze up to the head guy to, move on up in the world, because there's constant stories of Robert Ford's obsession with Jesse James. And it's just, he uses that to kind of, weasel his way into the gang. And even minor characters like Jeremy Renner, not really minor, but secondary, because he's out pretty quick in the movie, just do a great job at capturing their character and what they're supposed to be. And you could really tell that Woodhite has a great allegiance with his cousin, Jesse James, and everything about it is just, it's so solid. There's nothing really bad I could say about this film. There really isn't. Pacing is great. Acting is unbelievable. Seriously, if they didn't get the actors they got for this film, it wouldn't have worked, because I think that's pretty much the film's strongest point. Just how they can make you feel the way they're feeling with just their facial expressions. Every time, Woodhite's death is being brought up, when he asks Charlie, you could just see his face just drop, like, no, I don't know anything about that. They're not very good liars either. They get very shaky, very stuttery when that all happens. But that's the genius of it, because I think you'd be shaking too if Jesse James was asking you if you were involved with the murder of his cousin. So, all in all, I highly recommend you guys check this movie out. Definitely worth your time. I had seen bits and pieces of it, but I'd always wanted to see the full movie, beginning to end, and I finally was able to, and it is so solid, and that is why it's number 7 on my list, which brings me to my final verdict. And for this movie, it's going to be a 4 out of 5. It is a great film, solid Western, a great story of an extremely infamous outlaw and how he was taken out in such a cowardice way. So, extremely solid film. Brad Pitt's a producer. Great job, Brad. You did a fantastic job making this film. That's all I really have to say about that. Stay tuned next week for my review of Spider-Man Far From Home, the 23rd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and who knows, I might have a guest on. You'll have to wait and see. Until next time, guys, that's a wrap. That's when I'll start and we'll cut. So I'm going to grab a rag from the laundry room so we can have something for me to clean the dusty picture with. So yeah, just make sure we're not on the Titanic. Yeah. Here, I'll steady it with you. Okay. Maybe a little faster.
Okay.
All right, ready and go. Perfect. Oh, fuck, I'm supposed to be in the front. You idiot!
Can we just add that in the blooper?
Yeah, I'm going
and go. And go. Oh, shit.
I'm supposed to be in the... Alright. I have the sound effect when I go bang. And now, me...
Bang.
Cleaning the thing. This is the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. By this ass right. That's gonna be the end of the bloopers.